Welcome to Access Art Access Live, again with me, Otieka Sylvia. Well, today we are at Ama Arts. This is Makerere University at Mitchell Hall. We are going to talk to Roland Tibirusya, who is an artivist and souvenir artist. Yeah, come share with us today. Roland, nice meeting you today on Access Art Access Live.
Thank you.
Now, I know you're a painter, yes? So tell us more about you. How did you get into painting? Yeah?
Okay. My real names are Tibirusya Roldan, and I'm a souvenir artist, a live painter. Of late, I'm an activist because I desire to use the artworks to communicate, and this is the fusion of art and activism. And being a painter, I'm known for those particular event kind of paintings where I paint before big audiences. So that's brief about this artist. And the background is I'm born from Kigezi, and I'm now practicing visual artist in Kampala city.
Okay, you talked about being a souvenir painter. Elaborate more on that. What do you mean by that to the public?
Yes. A souvenir painting to me is a piece of art that reminds maybe a particular group of people, or a place that reminds a particular group of people of a particular maybe event that happened. Why I call them souvenirs, I happen to be the author of this creative idea. I call them souvenirs because I usually paint them on events live and then get guests to sign on by me putting their signatures. So that's how I mention them to be souvenirs. But I've been doing them for charity and sharing it to the communities out there where you go, and allowing people to use the way they can be more of interactive kind of sessions where I paint on the canvas, and we have moments just uniquely when they sign on my work, and we're having fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So
which particular events have you attended to?
Maybe from the recent ones I've been to. Recently was an 86th district conference of Rotary International at Munyonyo, the Commonwealth. So I was doing a painting live during a session, which later on the RI president, who's the Rotary International president, signed on. And the governor who was hosting the group of those particular districts of I think like 5 from Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Those are districts of 86 who are gathered at Munyonyo. So by me signing, put a signature is a souvenir. So that's one of the recent one. Then if I could mention the recent one is a project I've been working on. That was the recent very one last weekend. I did a painting, a portrait of late Kalimuzo. It was a memorial lecture. So when the session was on, and the guest of honor was the president, so he was sharing, and I painted a portrait, which was for auction. Then the previous ones I've been really doing live paintings on festivals, like the Baimba International Festival. Yes. I've been doing several in hotels, like for maybe if I could mention previously, I've done the Kirk Franklin concert, which was here in Uganda. So I mean at the Serena, I painted during the session. So I painted like an impression of the Kirk's face, the portrait. Then it was auction, and after the auction they raised money for the African Children's Choir. And there are very many events I've been working on. So it's a collective of many souvenirs.
Yes, there are very, very many that you have attended and participated in.
Yes.
So besides like the signatures that the public or the great people sign on to your the paintings.
Yes.
What else do they do? Do they like do you involve them in something like maybe painting also, like they get paint and maybe paint on your canvas?
Yeah, several times I've involved people, especially like that particular of Kirk Franklin. I engaged the guests, even the MDs of particular groups. I'm talking about of corporate companies who would put their signatures or initials of their companies. So as part of the interactive kind of project, they had to put their signatures on the canvas. So it has been different. I've been handling it this way, where I involve more people. Either they put a signature by writing their thought or the initials, then maybe they paint something. If it's a corporate kind of event, they put their, usually allow them to put their, like their company names or their statements. So it's a collective piece that, you know, qualifies to be a souvenir by me involving people, like, you know, interactively, you know, involved by, you know, adding value to it that way.
What inspires you to come up with these paintings? What really inspires you when you go to those occasions or those exhibitions? What really gets into you and you go like, well, I think this time around it is maybe by Yimba.
Okay.
By Yimba. So how do you come up to like to come up with such a painting to attract the public to get to sign on to that canvas?
Okay. Particularly like how I just get more people involved in this painting session is I usually want to paint openly, and it's a free session, not necessarily. What I mentioned here, I just carry these canvases from my studio and I'm painting out there where they are. And I paint as the session is going on. I usually engage them to paint on, not necessarily having a particular like you know, like talk about an order of where they have to paint on, but they just share that moment uniquely by involving what I'm doing. But basic, what I've been doing is getting to the event, then paint, seizing a moment, interpreting the essence of what is on the function. If it's a festival, there's music and the drums are playing, so I paint.
So you paint the drums,
yes.
You know, it puts you in the mood.
Yes.
In the mood to come up
I usually paint pictures, you know, deliberately, like what I'm seeing on that particular, or paint and interpret the speech of a particular group, of a guest or whatever is shared in there. So I think that is how I've been more involved in of painting. Then at the end of the day, maybe later after I finish that session, we sign on. Or between in there when I'm painting, then you can still sign on something.
Okay. Now let's go into the detail of your colors. You have bright colors in your paintings.
Yes.
Actually, the ones I've seen so far, they are so bright.
Yes.
How do you? Is it you? Do you want them to be lively that way?
Actually, I love using the bright colors. Reason being that I borrow so much from Uganda national flag. I usually use the three colors, the black, yellow and red, which is symbolic, to me, symbolic of patriotism. With the love of the country, I usually want to use these particular colors and dominate my work. Because whenever I cross the borders, maybe when I go to Nairobi, Kenya or Burundi or Kigali, I want to use their colors. But when I'm around Kampala, I usually use the colors which give me this palette, but of the three colors of the national flag. So it's unique in the way I usually want to use them and dominate with the yellows and the red and then the black. You see when they're signing on the blacks, I want to sign the signatures on. So it is my palette. I usually use the three colors to dominate the paintings that I've been doing, especially the souvenirs. But for the portraits, I've been doing black and white kind of portraits where I paint and I use a monochrome kind of black pigment that you know expresses those mood expressions and all that. Yeah.
Okay, this is quite interesting and very beautiful. I think I've seen their really beautiful artworks,
yes.
And I'm encouraging people out there to really come and look at them because they are really wonderful. Well, do you have anything else to tell us about yourself or about this studio?
Oh, I happen on it. Of course, I'm known to be out there painting, but I usually, you know, engage more of a studio work, which is more of portrait paintings and landscapes. Landscapes here are these maybe features, or you study a particular seascape where you paint open air. So, but for the studio work, I'm always doing portraits. Portraits are these faces of people. I paint them and interpret their expressions, their mood, and uniquely maybe tell their likeness. You can relate to them, the particular, you know, I don't know. I usually paint from pictures, or people's pose and sit, I paint them, or I do more of illustrative, cartoon kind of images.
Have you gotten contracts before?
Yes, I've been, you know, people have been commissioning me to do particular works. Like I've told you about the Kalimzo a memorial lecture. I was commissioned to do a portrait, which was to officiating the function. I mean, which was to be displayed in memory of this particular man. Mr. Late Kalimzo was one of the first chancellors of Makerere University. So that is how it came into existence.
Okay, now I think we're going to get into detail as the content of your paintings. We look at your paintings, a number of your paintings.
Yes.
And we discuss more about what kinds of paints you used, maybe what was your main reason behind the painting, you get?
Okay.
Yeah, I think, but thank you very much for the interaction.
Maybe if I could want to mention one, because you've talked about you want to look into the paintings, I would want to begin with this particular one.
Okay.
Just looking at, this was an event that happened, this was a gathering of the Banyakigezi, which took place in Kabare way back that side. And it happened to have been, officiated by different guests from the diaspora who had come from over the world to that
particular
so
event.
They were birthing out an ICOB, it's called International Community of Banyakigezi, but with the values expressed was about the unity they were mentioning here, the love and the trust and the values attached to the Bachigas, because I come from Kigezi. So what you're seeing here is an expression. I tried to paint an egg which was birthing a new concept of art that would want to be used even for the future. And in essence is that what you're seeing here is a collection of some of the thoughts that were shared on that ground. But to me, the conviction was to paint for posterity, as in for future generations to, I think, to get a glimpse of what happened, that particular day.
Which is very nice.
And this was not work for sale; it was work for keeps, just for a memory of that particular day. So this is one of them. And when I painted that, the guest of honor still showed up was His Excellency the President of Uganda, who signed on this canvas. You could, I think, has his signature here. That, I think to me it added value to the event by him signing on the painting. And then the other person is the president of FDC, Kiza Besige. So he signed one of the works, which is here. This is the one I painted, and it's a continuation of the whole piece. If you're looking at it, I think uniquely the two people signed on this canvas, and I think President Chiza President of FDC, signed on this particular one. And His Excellency signed on this one. So it is a complete piece. It's one, because for purposes of
so basically you cannot sell the other one alone. Okay, I imagine if you were to sell them, you wouldn't sell each painting. I know it's one whole one, but two. Yeah, into two. They are divided into two, but it is one painting as a whole. But then I'm imagining if a client came over and said, I want to buy this painting, would you sell it? Would you sell the both of? Would you let the client take the two of them together, or you would sell one?
What I could do is, this is one piece of art. Only that it was just different because when I had the moment of painting this particular one, I had what I had in mind was to have it completely. It was connected only that for purposes of shifting, transportation, and all that. I just removed it to do one that way. But these are it's a one canvas that I painted during that session. And these are several messages that were shared, because this is one, and the way you're seeing it, this is one piece. So if a client comes and is interested in this particular piece, I sell the whole piece fastened on the wall of exhibition for framing. It is one complete piece. So it is a continuation of a story that was shared on that particular event, and summarizes that gathering in a way that was unique. So this qualifies to be a souvenir piece of art, live painted, and by mere fact that they sign on this, like it. Yeah?
There are very many people who are political and others are not. Others are environmental and they will not definitely have to look at all that. But the political people will definitely have to look at something like that as a description to your painting. Which I think is good, because everyone, a painting is usually about what other people think. It's usually about what you also think, but then what does the public also think about my painting?
Yeah, I think that's very sensitive for interpretation.
Yes, for interpretation, true.
But me, as part of this kind of painting, to me,
it's nothing like that.
No, it's part of activism kind of movement that where we use a painting to reach out to very many people.
Okay.
And no one even seemed to believe that Besigye and Museveni can, share a canvas. So I agree that
so
this
true.
brings in that way.
Wow. Thank you very much for this one. Let's look at others, actually, possibly the portraits and other kinds of paintings that you have around.
This is the title of this is The Rebirth, and here is what expression I was trying to put on canvas. These are the conviction about Makerere, and part of it was to ignite, an initiative to really reach out to very many people using a piece of art as part of my activism. So, what you're seeing here is the ivory tower. And then you're asking me about the footprints that in there. Yes, these are footprints on this canvas, symbolic of humility. Yes. Just like me having the courage to go through the Makerere and express myself with freedom, because this is part of the activism I'm mentioning here. And what you're seeing symbolic is maybe the other drums, and then the wood, and then the sword. Yeah. Yeah, I was bringing in a godly figure in it, talking about the sword of the Spirit, which was the word of God. So it's very symbolic that when you proceed on this canvas, they're dominating the yellows, the oranges, and the blues that appear somewhere. I think they are more related to the three colors. But this was the rebirth of a new concept of an idea, which was painting of messages that would describe well of Makerere. I think that's how I should do it. Then later on the particular event where it was the stakeholders conference, those donors, the people who are coming in, on that very evening, had to sign the canvas. By me signing the canvas was very symbolic of like an acknowledgement of this particular event, uniquely. Like the chancellor himself signed the canvas, and then the ambassador of Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, Patrick Edwards, was also part of the session. He signed on it.
He also managed to sign?
Yes.
Wow.
Then this is the Dean of School of Art, signed. There were very many names that appeared on this canvas that signed on that canvas on that very day. So it was uniquely interpreting the session at the time. Okay. But most of all, what I was trying to address was an 86-year-old university that was stemming to have new ideas, because the vision is to promote innovation. So it's part of the innovative kind of idea that I thought I could really have to reach out to many people using a paintbrush. This is portraiture. I think more portraiture is where I paint people from pictures, or the pose I paint them. So this is a particular portrait that was commissioned by one of the ladies from the KPC Kampala. I think it's from a church. She's a leader in the church, so she gave me a picture to paint this portrait. And she explained who this person is. And she says she's called Marion Skinner. And we have not met her personally, but I painted her face. And this was to be auctioned for their projects. But I'm still having it here because they need to collect it. So it's a work in progress.
I think this is very unique. I in person, I think I really love it. It's very nice.
Oh, thank you. So what you're seeing here, like when I paint such, I usually want to achieve three things. Maybe to express the mood, the character of the kind of person I'm painting, then the likeness, then the expression. If the person is smiling, I just want to have that, but using a black and white monochrome. Which one?
Why do you really choose to use black and white?
Black and white is black and white monochrome is more African. I like it because I think when we talk about black, usually it's absence of color. Yeah. So when I use that, since I think since December last year, I've been painting portraits in black and white. Bringing in the contrast.
You found it more interesting than using the colors, or more creative or something?
Yeah, I've been using like a black and white kind of expression, but I find it unique because I've not seen many portraits painted in black and white. Because the portraits I've found around, even artists, the portraits I've painted before, portraits in color. Like the one I'm going to show you is a particular self-portrait I did with a palette knife. So I've not found many of those in black and white. So I just got inspiration from those particular paintings I did first, and then kept on painting this kind of.
So let's talk about could I say material that you used. What materials do you use?
For these particular studio painted portraits, I use acrylic color, which is more water based. But later on you varnish and seal it, or you fix it using fixative. But I use a paintbrush, to mix the colors onto the canvas, which is less like this particular one. This is the canvas.
No, it's canvas. Okay, I'm curious about the thread that went through inside. Was it intentional, or it just happened to stick onto the canvas without anything, or it was just your creativity to come up with something like that? Every
portrait I've painted, especially the black and white, and even when you see the canvases I have in there, this appears in there. There's a thread, this is a design, it's how I sign my work, it's a signature.
It's a signature.
Yeah,
wow.
Every particular work that appears has to have this particular one. If you're very observant, even that one is that thread in that particular one. So it is a signature. To me, it applies. Every piece of art, especially an original piece of art, it has to appear in these threads. That's how I identify specifically those ones. Okay. In portrait, but this one here I used color. And this is a self-portrait. I used the palette.
What kind of color did you use for this one?
This is oil.
Oil paints?
Yes. I was painting using a palette knife. Palette knife is a particular piece that you can keep squeezing paint onto the canvas. If I could use this kind of knife to paint, this is why I squeeze oil on the canvas like this. I think that is more abstract, but the impression is more not smooth as with the paintbrush. So this is a palette knife, but the colors schemes I use, I add more of the blues and the dirty greens, and because I wanted it to be unique, because I've painted all the smooth paintings, I wanted mine to be rough, because I believe is that that expression of I don't know if I'm a faster kind of person, but it is that part of me which is rough. Being a background, me being from a Chiga background, I don't really want to express it. That's how I was mentioning, to bring an element of character and expression. So mine painting it using this one was an expression that was very unique. So this one, counts to me. But this kind of person is not just, but again, our backgrounds always, influence us, even how we do our art. Maybe if I could mention, even by the time I painted this, the mood was different. I was not happy. I was trying to express myself. So it depends on how I feel, even how to paint. If a session of the painting is with the good music and maybe it's fun, sometimes I paint, work differently. So this is part of it. I don't really have to use, professionally. I don't have to use any of those, but I use what I can get. Yes. Just like I've told you about a palette knife, using this particular knife to paint. Yeah.
And yet, very many out there would think I need a palette knife to paint something, to come up with a painting.
Yeah, there's a professional palette knife, but me, I use a rock one, and then you achieve something. So that's some of those paintings. This one here, the title is Boldness, because I decided to have that attitude of being bold, like a lion. So that's how I painted this. It's just a drawing inspiration from, from this essence of why I usually paint portraits. And this is a paintbrush using a brown kind of monochrome, which has more of the yellows, orange, but it tends to be brown. And I think I usually do live paintings, but sometimes I do wildlife pieces, something like this. And some of them are unique in the way that they have their own, of course they speak a lot. When you see that one, to me it makes sense to, even to the public. Like you said, this is one of them in my collections, but this is, my totem is Engwe. In Uganda they call it Engo, but Engwe is in our language. So it is that.
So that's your totem. That's why you did it for. You painted that.
Yeah, that's why I painted it. That.
Okay, but I think I love this technique. It's could I say illusional? Like one would not get to know this is the dimension. Okay, this is now the angle. It's going like so. It's lining up like this. It's really so illusional. One would only get to know that when, like, to demarcate the real edges of the wild animal from afar and not from close.
This is another piece, but this is more of a pastel on paper. So it's framed. The way you're seeing it is an expression. This is my face. So that is it, pastel on paper.
How do you get to sketch yourself?
One, I think when I attempt to paint myself, sometimes I paint using a picture.
Okay.
Because I can't see myself, I can't imagine myself. I use a picture, or I can look at myself in the mirror.
The mirror, okay.
But that picture is more easier for me.
Isn't it challenging, really, for you to sit in front of a mirror and paint? I'm so sure you would maybe change the position or something. You would not get to know I was seated like this. My face was really like this or something. Isn't it challenging?
Yeah, I think it's a bit tricky because the more you move to do this, you're really shifted. So it's a bit tricky, but once, God has given us a skill that once you visualize that particular one, imaginatively you can interpret it on paper or on canvas that way. So uniquely, that's how I managed to paint my face. And even maybe if I look at someone's picture, I mean it is the same way. Just like earlier on I was telling you that every piece of art is a child brain on its own. Even if you're given the same time, you can never repeat it this way. So uniquely, what I borrow from that is when I get a picture, the way I can paint myself, my picture of my face, I can paint someone else. So that's how I've been involved in the art, especially in the area of portraiture. Yeah.
Now, you talked about you getting an award. Which award did you earn yourself?
The award I won the Young Achievers Award 2010 in the category of art, fashion and design, which was officiated by His Excellency the President of Uganda at the Serena Hotel. And this is...
When was that? Was that this year or last year?
No, it was in December last year, 2010. And what was involved in is that through these charity projects I've been working on, I was nominated as one of those best artists that have contributed to society, looking at a track record of how I'd raised around 200 million for different charity causes. So that is how I was nominated and people voted me in, and I was really the best artist who stand out in art, fashion and design. So
where do you think you would be, let's say 5 years from now? What do you expect of yourself? What do you think you're going to do for yourself? Do you think you're still going to be at this level? Do you think you're going to be greater than what you are right now?
What I could mention, what I'm looking at for the future, I would want to, visualize it this way. I'm looking at some where possible from a level of operating as a visual independent artist to where I incorporate in this creative artistry in a corporate way, because I discovered that so much, even since that hour, so many people have walked to me, they want to work with me, so I want to advance it from more corporate kind of, not just a visual arts practice, but into a business venture where I want to practice and see if I can make money for commercial. So, from the charity bit to the commercial bit, so I'm looking at establishing maybe a center in the next 5 years, an art center which gathers, it becomes a hub of visual arts and maybe the performing and all that, but specific to communicate these convictions that we have and elements of activism and then culture and, in that area. But I'm seeing myself reaching out to millions of people all over the world. Because in this campaign of painting, I've got opportunities to travel a bit, but not necessarily want to end there. I want to really get to places where I have to share this art in totality and make millions of money that I want to establish better investments here in Uganda.
So how do your clients get to you?
Usually my clients just give me a call, just like when I'm on events, they usually come in touch. Inquire. for the service. Maybe for those charity events or the portraits that I do, whenever I find them hung, they come and they connect to the person I've done work. I don't put billboards to advertise my work, but what I do is a one-on-one. I use word of mouth. Tell you and you tell someone else, and you come and find me in the studio. Then for this particular, I think these weddings, people have seen me paint on weddings, and there were some particular people who called me and said, come and paint on this one. And then the couple signs on the work, and then they take it as a memory of that particular evening at the reception. So it's more of people getting to learn about my work through like this opportunity of UBC. People can get to know about what I do and to share my conviction about this work, and in contact to give me more business. The studio here we are the Ama Arts Studio, which is a collective of visual artists, but I am a proprietor of Ama Arts Studio. And maybe for contact, my it's amaarts@gmail, the email, amaarts@gmail. Yes, amaarts@gmail, ARMOROU@gmail.
Well, that was Roland for us today. You've seen how beautiful artworks that he has, for us. And see you next time again with me, Otieka Sylvia, on Access Art Access Live, UBC Tuesday. It's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. See you again next time on Access Art Access Live on UBC on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. As usual, with me, Otieka Sylvia. Bye.